and welcome to Indus News Live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. The US has concluded that the government in Afghanistan could collapse as soon as 6 months after the withdrawal. The new intelligence assessment reported by the Wall Street Journal downgrades an earlier evaluation of 2 years. This comes after the Taliban made significant inroads against the government in the past week. Meanwhile, a Pentagon and State Department delegation will visit Turkey on Thursday to discuss security at the Kabul airport. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair an all-party meeting on occupied Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday. The Gupkar Alliance of Kashmiri politicians says it will press Modi to resolve for Kashmir's disputed status and full statehood. It is the first political engagement since New Delhi repealed Article 370 in August 2019 and revoked the Valley special status. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 5 armed drones launched by Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. The coalition said one of the drones was targeting the southern province of Jazan. It said the deliberate and systematic Houthi escalation constitutes a war crime. Brazil has registered a single-day record of more than 115,000 coronavirus cases. In Pakistan, 38 more people have died due to virus, while nearly 1,100 tested positive overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.8 million lives and has infected over 179 million others. Well, those were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now to news in detail. The US has concluded that the government in Afghanistan could collapse as soon as 6 months after the withdrawal. This comes as the US military is halfway through to meeting President Joe Biden's September 11 deadline for a complete exit. Taliban's significant advances prompted agencies to revise the outlook for how long Kabul can hold out. The new intelligence assessment reported by the Wall Street Journal downgrades an earlier evaluation of 2 years. Meanwhile, the U.S. chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff downplayed the Taliban's advances during congressional testimony. Mark Milley said the Taliban control only 81 districts of a total of 419 district centers. Milley noted that the fighters do not control any of the 34 provincial capitals. However, he maintained that the military is closely monitoring on-ground developments. President Joe Biden is set to meet with his Afghan counterpart Ashraf Ghani on Friday at the White House. A U.S. delegation will visit Turkey on Thursday to discuss security at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan. In a press briefing, Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said necessary measures will be taken after talks conclude. However, Akar ruled out the possibility of sending additional troops to the country. Earlier, U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, said there is yet to be a written agreement. Testifying before the House Armed Services Committee, Milley indicated reaching a deal on the matter. The general said he is confident that the security of Kabul airport will be maintained. Ankara has been running the military and logistic operations of the Kabul airport for 6 years as part of a NATO-led mission. Pakistan says the most immediate challenge facing the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is the Afghan conflict. Moeed Yusuf made these remarks during the 16th meeting of the National Security Advisors of the SCO member states in Tajikistan. He reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to peace in Afghanistan but cautioned against peace spoilers. He said Islamabad condemns terrorism in all its forms, including state violence against people under illegal occupation. The advisor went on to say that terrorism cannot and should not be associated with any race and religion. He stressed the need to counter the negative economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The advisor highlighted Pakistan's efforts to champion the global initiative for debt relief. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair an all-party meeting on occupied Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday. The Gupkar Alliance of Kashmir politicians says it will press Modi to restore Kashmir's disputed status and full statehood. In a press briefing, the alliance made it clear that there will be no compromise on the restoration of Articles 370 and 35A. The alliance said it will also seek the release of all Kashmiri political detainees. It is the first political engagement since New Delhi revoked the Valley special status in August 2019. The government has invited 14 leaders from occupied Kashmir, but no agenda has been set for the meeting. Kashmir's All Parties Hurriyat Conference will not be a part of the engagement. Pakistan's parliament has passed a resolution calling for an immediate restoration of the occupied Kashmir's autonomy. The Senate has asked India to end the illegal occupation of the valley. It urged India to stop its actions aimed at changing the demography of the region. The resolution reads, New Delhi must let Kashmiris exercise their right to self-determination. It also called for the release of all Kashmiri political detainees and paid tribute to those braving Indian atrocities. The resolution comes ahead of a meeting summoned by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the status of the region. Critics say the meeting is India's ploy to mislead the world on the situation in occupied Kashmir. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 5 armed drones launched by Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. The coalition said one of the drones was targeting the southern province of Jazan. It said deliberate and systematic Houthi escalation constitutes a war crime. The coalition said it is taking measures to protect civilians from such hostile acts. The latest strike comes a few days after the coalition claimed to have destroyed 17 Houthi drones within 24 hours. Israeli soldiers have shot at least 5 Palestinians in Beit Dajan village, east of the northern West Bank city of Nablus. Palestinian media quoted medics as saying that victims were hit by rubber-coated bullets and live rounds. It said the occupation forces also fired tear gas, causing many to suffocate. The Israeli army also abducted a Palestinian child after raiding a park in a village in southern Nablus. While in occupied East Jerusalem's Old City, Israeli forces abducted 5 Palestinians, including 3 of a family. Earlier, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said he would only work with the new Israeli administration if it stops aggression. Brazil has registered a single-day record of more than 115,000 coronavirus cases. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.8 million lives and has infected over 179 million others. More in this report.
As daily cases in Brazil hit a record high, investigations into government's alleged neglect gain momentum. A Brazilian Senate committee has allowed Google, Facebook, and Twitter representatives to testify in an ongoing probe into the government's handling of the pandemic. The Senate committee and prosecutors are investigating why the government sought to close a deal for more expensive vaccines from India while ignoring early offers from Pfizer. Meanwhile, Brazil is set to receive 3 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines from neighboring U.S. U.S. officials plan to strengthen cautions about cardiac complications as a side effect of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, mostly in people under 26. Unlike other parts of the world, the Delta variant is wreaking havoc in Russia, where Moscow and St. Petersburg hit all-time high daily death records.
The death rate is extremely bad. For 2 days in a row, we've been getting a record daily death rate. Of course, this situation is partly linked to the safety measures adherence like mask wearing, etc. But nonetheless, it does not explain the spike we are observing now. So we studied the strains which predominated today, and about 90% of sick people in Moscow have got the Indian strain, so-called Delta variant.
French authorities say the Delta variant currently accounts for 9 to 10% of confirmed new cases in the country. Over in Australia, too, New South Wales reported a double-digit rise in new local cases for a 3rd day in a row.
Can I say, notwithstanding those circumstances, that since the pandemic has started, this is perhaps the scariest period that New South Wales is going through, and Dr. Chan and I are of equal view of that. It is a very contagious variant, but at the same time, we are at this stage comfortable that the settings that are in place are the appropriate settings.
India has reported more than 1,300 deaths and just above 54,000 infections over the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has authorized the mix and match approach for either the first or second dose of the vaccine.
Pakistan has reported 38 more deaths from coronavirus in the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the death toll has surged to 22,108. It added at least 1,097 people tested positive for the virus overnight. There are 33,000 active cases in the country at present, with over 2,000 critical. Pakistan has reported nearly 951,000 cases since the pandemic began, with more than 896,000 recoveries. Islamabad has called for economic integration and regional connectivity under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi made these remarks at the Asia and Pacific High-Level Video Conference on Belt and Road Cooperation. Qureshi said Green CPEC is a priority for Pakistan. He stressed the importance to make economies development-oriented and environmentally sustainable. The Foreign Minister urged multilateral cooperation in combating COVID-19 and underlined Pakistan's smart lockdown policy. He said Pakistan distributed 203 billion rupees to 15 million vulnerable families through its AUTONOMY emergency cash program. The conference was attended by ministers of 30 countries and representatives of 6 international organizations. The UN Atomic Watchdog and the Food and Agriculture Organization have conferred an award on Pakistan's Nuclear Institute for Agriculture and Biology. 4 scientists at the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission have also received the Team Achievement Award. Another young Pakistani scientist was honored for his work in plant mutation breeding and related technologies. The awards will be presented during the 65th General Conference of the International Atomic Energy Agency in September. Islamabad says this is recognition of Pakistan's advancement in the use of nuclear technology for sustainable development goals. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has appealed to extend a cross-border aid operation into Syria for another year. The mandate for the operation is set to expire on July 10th. In an address to the Security Council, Guterres warned that a failure to do so would be devastating for millions of people. Russia's UN ambassador said aid can be delivered from the capital Damascus as the crossing violates Syria's territorial integrity. The Syrian envoy also called the crossing points as politicized and said it was a temporary measure for old conditions. Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador joined Guterres in appealing to the Council vote in favor of the mandate. Top EU diplomat Stavros Lambrinidis has urged the U.S. to ease COVID-19 related travel restrictions on Europeans. At a virtual event, Lambrinidis said it is a mistake to prevent Europeans from overseeing their American investments. The diplomat says 60% of foreign investment in the U.S. comes from Europe. Lambrinidis noted that Brussels allow U.S. citizens working in Europe to enter without any restrictions. But he regretted that Europeans are not allowed to return to the U.S. even if they are vaccinated or quarantined. The envoy said Brussels is working to resolve the issue and he is hopeful for an agreement soon. He added that the dispute over U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs is complex, but there is ample time to resolve it. The European Union is preparing to say goodbye to German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The summit in Brussels on Thursday may be the last for Merkel as Chancellor before federal elections in September. For 15 years, she sat across the negotiating table from 4 French presidents, 5 British prime ministers, and 8 Italian premiers. She often became a target during angry street protests, caricatured on placards and posters from Athens to Lisbon. Nonetheless, both Brussels and Berlin say they will miss Merkel heading Germany. The US has once again voted against a UN resolution calling for an end to Washington's embargo on Cuba. The 193-member chamber adopted the resolution for the 29th time this year. 184 members voted in favor of the resolution, 3 members abstained. The US and Israel were the only two that opposed the resolution. Washington has consistently voted against the resolution for 24 years. It defends the sanctions as the only set of tools in its effort to push Cuba to advance democracy. The UN vote carries political weight, but only the US Congress can lift the more than 50-year-old embargo. According to the Cuban authorities, historically this policy has caused damages of almost $149 billion. Egypt has retrieved 114 looted antiquities smuggled to France. French and Egyptian authorities carried out a joint operation to prevent the sale and trade of relics. Egypt's chief public prosecutor, Hamada Al-Sawi, led a high-level delegation to Paris where the items were examined. The authorities took inventory of the artifacts to prepare them to be transferred to Cairo. The statement did not provide further details on the nature of the artifacts. In Japan, a month ahead of the Olympic Games, Tokyo has another reason to celebrate as a giant panda, Shinchin, has given birth to twins. This is the first panda birth the Ueno Zoo has seen in 4 years and the first twin bird they have ever had. The gender of the cubs has not been determined and they have not yet been named. It is not immediately known when the newborn cubs are expected to go on display at the zoo. Pandas are notoriously difficult to breed in captivity as the females go into heat only once a year and can be picky about their partners. Shares in the Asia-Pacific are trading mixed. Investors struggle for direction after the S&P 500 on Wall Street snapped its 2-day winning streak. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and Seoul's Kospi have gained marginally. Stocks in mainland China are more or less trading flat. Meanwhile, Australia's ASX 200 has dipped over 0.5%. Japan's Nikkei 225 has also slipped slightly. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.